Hello, Plaidman here. It's very late for me. We did a time change, so it's technically 1 o'clock, which is really 12 o'clock. So I'm technically a little late on doing this video. Sorry, I didn't want to cheat again and just do it in the morning and be totally fine. And frankly, I was kind of having a hard time trying to figure out, what I wanted Throwback Thursday to be, because I'm still trying to figure out, what does that mean? And I think it's funny to say Throwback Thursday because we all have, or it used to be a fad on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, where you look at pictures. And maybe I could do that. I actually just remembered a story. I was going to talk about littering, because I did a littering video, 2 years ago, and not overly impressed, and I don't want to just delete it, so I'd rather do it again. But I will do a littering video at another time, but I did have a thought. Couple interesting stories, dog related. So one was, my parents really wanted, when we were younger, they were trying to figure out the perfect breed, and what they figured out was the breed that they wanted for various reasons, because they had 3 young children and yada yada yada. Was they wanted a flat-coated retriever. So we didn't have a ton of money, and flat-coated retrievers are a pretty nice breed, frankly, and highly sought after, and they're therefore expensive, and there's a long list, and yada yada yada. Well, my parents being my parents, they figured out how to kind of be on the list and do this and that, and we were kind of fortunate enough because there was people who I guess they bailed out on getting the dog. So we kind of got bumped up, and we just got lucky and fortunate in the sense that now the dog was a little older than it might normally be, and there were people who were, properly raising dogs and all this stuff. And it was just an interesting story because, and my parents have told it to us several times, and it's very interesting because the owners of the dog weren't sold, and they had every right to basically refuse to sell my parents the dog. And my parents brought us kids over, and you have in the front yard several puppies and older dogs. I think there was 6 or more dogs just running around playing, and my sisters and I just running around, young, goofing around, playing with the dogs, treating them really nicely, not afraid of the older and the bigger dogs, and totally treating them well. And it's interesting because I remember that experience. I don't remember where I was. I couldn't direct anyone over there. But it was interesting because what I got from that story retold from my parents' perspective was that was the reason. How the kids reacted, how my sisters and I reacted to the puppies and the dogs is what really sunk it for those people and got them to be like, oh, hey, yeah, no, we'll sell you this dog. So that was a really cool experience. And I guess the lesson behind that, I've had the benefit of having dogs be part of my upbringing my entire life. And I've run into, because I've also spent a lot of time either babysitting, or for a short time I had the great fortune of running a daycare for a short span of time and having friends who had kids and so on and so forth. There was a few times where I've run into smaller children, and I mean smaller as in 7, 8, something like that, who didn't have a lot of interactions with dogs. And to me, it was kind of sad because I get that there's a size disparity, especially if you get a larger breed, like a German Shepherd or something like that, and you get a kid and they're not used to dogs, and then you have this larger dog who's very friendly and is like, hey, how's it going? And you get these kids that are like, oh my goodness, and they just don't want to hang around the dog. To me, it makes it kind of sad because dogs can be really, really amazing. And I feel like that's kind of a missed opportunity. Not to say that everyone should have a dog, because frankly, I think there's people out there that shouldn't have dogs. Like, they shouldn't. Because they kind of treat them horribly. And you can see by the person and how they react and by their dogs. Whereas reversely, how I was raised, and I'm not saying I'm perfect and whatnot, but how my parents treated our dogs, because I think we had 3, like as a family, at least 3. And since then, I've had 2 myself. But my family has always treated our dogs as another member of the family. We didn't call them fur babies, but in a way, that was kind of the viewpoint, is like the dogs go in and out. They come with us on most things. We treat them with respect. We do some training with them, so on and so forth. And that's very involved, but in a way, the dogs end up loving you more for it. Like, I think sometimes my lady gets a little jealous of me because if I go outside, my dog goes outside with me. It's actually kind of a little frustrating because if we need him to stay inside with her, he's like, no, but David's out there. David's out there. I want to go out there. Not that he's like super manic about it, but it is like noticeable and palatable that he'll do that. So one thing I will say, just in this regard, is that for me, there's tremendous value in kids at a younger age having interactions with dogs, at least. And if you can, and you can do it right, having a dog in your life and with your kids' life, so that kids also kind of get early level lessons in responsibility. Like, if you don't feed the dog, that negatively impacts the dog. But having the child have responsibility of taking the dog for walks, feeding the dogs, giving the dogs baths, whatever, effectively you're giving some degree of responsibility to the kid for them to take care of it, which if they don't, there's a negative impact on the dog, and then hopefully the kid can learn like the beginning stages and beginning levels of responsibility. I just think there's a tremendous value in that. Now, I will say, I'll kind of close out with like a bad story. And for the record, I apologize if this audio is not awesome. I realized midway doing this that my ears are not connected because I turned off my Bluetooth earlier. So I apologize if the sound is crummy. Oh well. C'est la vie. There's another story where, again with the Flat-Coated Retriever, and I had spent a lot of time with this dog, and I had gotten him, for some reason I had made like a command where we'd be like running along, and I would say, yeah, like what you hear in like a Western movie when they're on their horse and want the horse to go faster, and yeah, and the horse goes faster and they're like going. Well, I had like inadvertently trained the dog, because as I'm an adult and I'm learning things that I want to train my current dog to do, that's basically how you do it, is you say a command, either verbal or with hand signals or something like that, and you do it a number of times over, and eventually, especially the smarter the dog, they'll realize that, oh, when you say or do this thing, you want me to do that thing. Okay, no problem. So I had trained this dog to say, yeah, or whenever I said, yeah, like that meant we're running, like we're going full tilt, okay? And that was all fun and games and no problemo. But then me being younger, I don't exactly know how old I was. I want to say, let's say 11 or 12. And my youngest sister, she was like 7 or something like that at the time. So she had the dog, and she was holding the leash, and we were, in a big park somewhere with lots of leaves and fall or whatever. It doesn't really matter. And the dog was half a football field away from me, okay? And I just thought it would be the most hilarious thing. So I yell to the dog, and so I get his attention, and then I say, yeah, like really loudly, like, run, come to me, like, run to me. And boy, oh boy, does he do exactly that. And he just bolts, which effectively means that my sister, who's small and small of frame and is holding on for dear life to this dog, the dog, which at that time was a pretty powerful mid to large dog, just bolts, and she's holding on for dear life and goes horizontal. She's like this, being pulled behind the dog, and then gets dragged a little bit until she lets go of the leash. Needless to say, my parents were very upset with me and not happy and did not think it was funny. And I'm sure I had to apologize and make amends to my sister. I will say, as with anything, that to me, it has stuck with me as funny of a story as it is, it's not a good thing. And as cliche as this sounds, it's just what came to mind right now, that, you know, the Spider-Man saying of with great power comes great responsibility. Dogs are and will probably always be, irregardless of how you train them, effectively children, right? So they don't really understand things like that. Like if you had a human and you, whenever you say, yeah, they got excited and like did something, in general, an average human's going to be like, oh, wait, if I do this, this is going to have this repercussion. I'm not going to do that. That's not good. Dogs don't. So I still feel bad for that. Not like it doesn't weigh on me every time. If nothing else, it's kind of just a humorous story. My sister's fine. No scars. But I will just say that there are good and bad parts. And ultimately, you're the adult in the room when it comes to dogs. There's tremendous value that you can get from having dogs in your life. But there is a very high degree of responsibility in everything that transpires with your dog. You as the owner are responsible. So I didn't mean to have like a sad, I probably should have flipped it and had the sad story first and then the happy story at the end. But either way, I just wanted to, that was kind of my Throwback Thursday. I was going to do something else, but that's fine. We'll stick with that for today. And again, I'm sorry if the audio is kind of like bad. But yeah, this is Plaidman, late night. Hope you enjoyed the Throwback Thursday. And I'll try and put out some more content that's maybe a little bit more snappy and on point. But thanks for listening. And have a good night/morning, as it is technically morning for me. Anyhow, I'll talk to you all later. Plaidman out. Bye.